Mikhail Glinka's Valse Fantasy with Vladimir Fedoseyev leading the Moscow Radio Symphony Orchestra. I'm Katelyn Matson-Levy, and this is the Classical Cafe on Radio Kansas. I also host the Green Room, and we're going to have one right now with Brent Williams, who is the founding artistic director of the Chamber Music Society of Wichita. He joins us here at the station. Hello, Brent.
Hey, Katelyn, how's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for asking. So you have somebody really special coming into town for this concert on February the 6th. Tell us a bit about who it is.
It is the world-renowned American Brass Quintet. They are, by most people's measure, the most important brass ensemble in the world. I know that there's a fierce debate about that amongst some of our brass colleagues. However, I think at the very least, you could say that they are one of the most well-respected brass groups in the world, and we're very lucky to have them.
I was reading reviews of the American Brass Quintet on their website, and I loved this line, so I wrote it down so I could share it. They are the high priests of brass.
That is a good one. I think that's from Newsweek, maybe.
That's
said
exactly
that about
where
them.
it's from.
Yeah.
Newsweek.
Yeah, they have some very incredible, we'll say, quotes about them, but well deserved, obviously.
The American Brass Quintet is one of the many ensembles in residence at the Juilliard School, as well as the Aspen School of Music. And Juilliard and Aspen are very, closely aligned. Many of the professors of Juilliard spend their summers teaching in Aspen. And then they have this incredible tour schedule, and they give master classes, and they do residencies as well. What all will they do here in Wichita?
In addition to the performance on Sunday, which you already mentioned before, at the Wichita Art Museum, they are going to give a master class at Wichita State University. And perhaps I should say master classes. It'll be at the same time, but they're going to split up so that individual instruments can be heard. So it'll be the two members of the quintet who play trumpet will be listening to and working with trumpet students, and then Eric will go with the horn students and work with them, and so on and so forth. So it is happening simultaneous, but they will, I guess, technically have 3 or maybe even 4 different classes happening simultaneously.
What goes into booking somebody like the American Brass Quintet? I mean, did you lie awake at night and go, I really want the American Brass Quintet? And did you start Googling? I mean, how did you book them? Obviously through their agent, I would imagine, their representation. What is that process like?
Well, I mean, it's not far off from what you had just said. When constructing this very first season of ours, I was looking obviously to make a splash and thinking of which groups really do embody kind of the pinnacle of their their area, their focus, and the American Brass Quintet obviously immediately came to mind. And you could, of course, kind of put a couple of groups in that string quartet area or piano trio, et cetera. But they definitely were one of the groups that I had immediately thought to book. So then, like you were saying, you have to kind of set out to figure out how to get in touch with them, because I don't actually know anyone in that group. And in this case, I found them probably through their website, but, I'm also a member of Chamber of Music America, as is, for that matter, our organization here. And they have a, extensive directory where you can go through and not only learn about new groups, but also find out who represents them so that you can hopefully book them. But anyway, they're represented by Kirschbaum and Associates. And so you reach out to them and basically use them as a pass-through organization, I guess.
The American Brass Quintet will be in Wichita performing this Sunday at the Wichita Art Museum. The concert begins at 5:30. We'll be back to talk more about the Chamber Music Society of Wichita with Brent Williams. We'll talk more about the upcoming recital. We're going to talk about a really unique Wichita connection between the American Brass Quintet, one of their members, and the Wichita area. But first, we're going to listen to a bit of music. This is actually the Atlantic Brass Quintet and a piece of music that was arranged for them. Unexpected, not something you would think of, but gorgeous. It is an arrangement of Arcangelo Corelli's Christmas Concerto for Brass Quintet, and we'll be back with Brent Williams. The Atlantic Brass Quintet, playing an arrangement of Arcangelo Corelli's Christmas Concerto. This is the Green Room on the Classical Cafe. I'm Katelyn Matson-Levy. Brent Williams moved to Wichita during pandemic times. Is that correct?
Just before, but it seems
Just
like it was
before.
basically in line with it.
A lifelong musician, professional musician. The pandemic comes along, and you think to yourself, I think I'll start a chamber music society.
In my defense, I had come up with the idea just before the pandemic started. So, primacy of place is important.
I think it's brilliant. And what a delight to welcome these incredible performing groups, these ensembles, to Wichita. So the American Brass Quintet has a very specific connection to Wichita because one of their trombone players, Michael Powell, is a graduate from the Wichita State University School of Music.
That is true. Yeah. Like I'd mentioned off the air, I wasn't actually aware of that connection whenever I first pursued booking them, but found out pretty quickly that they had that connection with our communities. That was a nice little extra incentive, I guess, to get them here.
It is, and probably really nice for him to come back. Do you know if the American Brass Quintet has toured through Wichita in recent years?
I do not know that. That's a very good question.
I don't think they have. I don't recall, at least not in the past 5 years, at least.
Having only lived here for the last 3+ years, it definitely didn't happen in that period, I can tell you.
How exciting to come back to the place where you got your degree, and I'm sure there are still people around town who were also music students at Wichita State University, low brass friends, things like that. Really exciting coming out to see Michael Powell and the American Brass Quintet. Something else really special about the Chamber Music Society of Wichita is not only your mission to bring these amazing artists to the city, but also, you talk about they give master classes for students. There's a lot of, there's an educational mission as well with area student musicians. But you also have a composer in residence.
That is true. Yeah. David Biedenbender is this season's composer in residence. He's a friend of mine. We did a festival together in Colorado, I don't know, maybe 11 years ago now, maybe only 10 years ago. I'm not really sure. Maybe it hasn't been that long. It just feels like it because of the pandemic. I'm not really sure. Whatever the case may be, we've known each other for a while. He's a professor at Michigan State University and a fantastic composer. I've performed a couple of his pieces before and certainly heard many more than that. We're very lucky to have him. He's not only writing a piece for ABQ for the Sunday's concert, but also is going to be writing something, and maybe he's even finished it, I'm not really sure, for the Zofo duet, who's coming here late March. So we'll have a couple of his works premiered with us.
Being a composer in residence, obviously, I mean, just as you said, you're giving him an opportunity to compose new works, basically commission. You've commissioned him to compose, X amount of works for the season. Does he then have back and forth with these specific ensembles? Is he communicating back and forth about their needs? What would they love to see to have on their next tour?
The short answer is yes. To what degree, I can't really say. We both of us, Katelyn, have probably worked with composers before, and it, the amount of input that you as a performer can give kind of varies depending on the composer. And I haven't actually worked in that process with David specifically, so I can't really say how much back and forth has been going on with him and ABQ. However, I do know that he's flying here tomorrow around lunchtime, and tomorrow afternoon we're scheduled to have him meet with the American Brass Quintet and work on his piece to hopefully have any questions that they may have answered in person. And I don't see any changes to the score happening between tomorrow and Sunday's concert, but sometimes these get-togethers can lead to alterations that take place in the final printed product, sometime down the road.
Composer David Biedenbender's world premiere of Nautilus from Sacred Geometry, performed by the American Brass Quintet, happens, it's the finale. I'm looking at the concert program right now. It seems like the very last piece on the program. Um, I don't know if that has changed or not.
It has
If that's
changed.
it has changed. It's not program. I'm not looking at program order. All right. Well, the world premiere, nonetheless, will happen this Sunday at 5:30 at the Wichita Art Museum. Very exciting. Looking through this program, it's just so wonderful, the rich variety that they're going to give us. Um, can you talk a bit about the program?
Absolutely. What you're looking at may have changed a little bit. It's kind of hot off the presses. They've added a couple things, subtracted a couple of others, and the order is different as well. So I'll give you the hot take, which is
All right.
going back to Biedenbender for just a second. They're actually going to be playing two of the movements from this larger work called Sacred Geometry, like you had mentioned, Nautilus, but then also what will eventually be the first movement, which is Ripples. And I don't know if they'll end up doing the other two movements or not. It's such a fresh ink phenomenon that I'm not really sure if they're going to be able to work up all four or not, but they definitely are planning on doing at least two of those movements. They're also going to be playing the finale of the whole program is Owazin's Colchester, or Colchester, maybe is how you say it, Fantasy, which is a four movement work. And each movement is inspired by a pub in that town in England. They're also going to be doing a set of chansons by Josquin des Prez, and there's 5 of those smaller movements. Finishing the first half, they're going to be doing the Quarantine Quintet by Donald York, which he had written just before passing away for them specifically. They're also going to be playing a set of consort pieces from Elizabethan and Jacobean England. One by Thomas Morley, one by John Dowland, a piece by John Wilby, and one by William Braid. They're doing a Gregorian chant called Lux Aeterni, which Louis Hanslick, one of the trumpet players, has edited. And then inspired, I guess there's another piece that was inspired by that specific chant, I think by that one, but at least by some Lux Aeterni by Evan Williams, which is going to follow that original chant.
Good stuff. The American Brass Quintet performing this Sunday at 5:30 at the Wichita Art Museum, brought to Wichita by the Chamber Music Society of Wichita. We'll be back in another couple of minutes to talk more with Brent Williams about the future of the Chamber Music Society of Wichita and what concerts we can expect on down the road. Carmen by Georges Bizet. That was the Atlantic Brass Quintet. This weekend, it's the American Brass Quintet. Artists in residence at both Juilliard and the Aspen School of Music. And Brent and I were just talking about what kind of world would that feel like to be on faculty of Juilliard and then to spend your summer teaching in Aspen. Oh my goodness.
Be a sweet existence, I would think.
Brent Williams is the founding artistic director of the Chamber Music Society of Wichita, which is the organization in town that is bringing in the American Brass Quintet to perform this Sunday at 5:30 at the Wichita Art Museum. How do we get tickets?
You can go to our website, cmswichita.org, and navigate around a little bit. You'll find it in there.
Talk about the Wichita Art Museum. How did that come to be as the venue?
Some persistence on my part, one connection from our board, also paid dividends. The first time I ever went into the Wichita Art Museum, so this would have been 3 some odd years ago, I immediately thought that it would be a good location for chamber music. There was even a piano in the Great Hall already, which no doubt helped plant that seed. And I did the thing that musicians oftentimes do, and probably makes their friends nearby a little bit embarrassed to be there. But I did the thing where you kind of clap your hands and sing a couple of notes to hear what the acoustics in the space were, and they were pretty fantastic, I felt. So yeah, just some persistence, and luckily Patricia and Sherry and Matt have been very good to us and have allowed us to use their space, which is really not only visually stunning, but it sounds great in there too.
Yeah, the whole thing is just pretty stunning to think about, to listen to this professional chamber music underneath that gorgeous glass and this beautiful setting of an art museum. I mean, just talking about it makes me feel good. I feel like a better person already, just imagining myself in that environment.
It is special. The last concert, and of course, the seasons are not going to allow this to always be the case. But at our first concert in November, the sun was even setting over a good deal of the performance, and the audience looks out, of course, onto the performers. But there's a big wall of glass behind them, and so you saw the sunset take place over. A good deal, like I said, of the performance itself. It was pretty magical, and maybe that'll happen again Sunday. I'm not really sure if we're at that time of year yet still or not. But
And what about in the springtime? Do you have other recitals planned for the remainder of the year, the season?
we do. March 27th, we're bringing in the Zofo Duet, which is a piano four hands ensemble, Grammy nominated, based in San Francisco. They're really not only fantastic performers, but great people as well. They are playing Schubert's Rondo in A major, a piece by Ravel, an arrangement of Bernstein's Candide Overture, Tchaikovsky's Romeo and Juliet Fantasy Overture, which is another arrangement, and then, like we mentioned before, a world premiere by David Biedenbender.
The Chamber Music Society of Wichita, bringing world-class chamber music to South Central Kansas. Not only that, but they have a great mission in terms of education and making sure that your guest artists meet with young members of the community, young musicians, master classes, things of that nature. We are grateful for that. We are grateful for you, Brent Williams. Thank you for speaking with me today and telling us all about the upcoming performance. Give us the rundown one more time. What is it? When is it? Where is it? How to get tickets?
Absolutely. American Brass Quintet this Sunday, February 6th. Doors open at 4 with a cocktail hour and access to the galleries, but the concert itself actually starts at 5:30 p.m. Tickets can be acquired at cmswichita.org.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Katelyn.
Have an incredible few days with these amazing musicians, and I'm sure you're like a kid in the candy store getting ready for the next few days.
I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, I can't wait.
All right. Thank you. Brent Williams. Go see the Chamber Music Society of Wichita. They have brought in the American Brass Quintet. Michael Powell plays the trombone. He is a graduate of the Wichita State University School of Music as well, so that's a bonus.